Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us today for Counselor's Coffee Talk featured advisor. And I'm with Rachel Sturma from Swampscott High School here in Massachusetts in the Commonwealth today. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Yeah, thanks for joining us here. And I think I've known Rachel, I don't know, how long have we known each
I
other?
came to the high school 2015 and you were already here, so.
Already well entrenched. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. So 7-ish years that Rachel's been at Swampscott, and I always think they do a great job. Swampscott's a community. How would you describe Swampscott as a community on North Shore?
So we're a small coastal community in north of Boston. We have a socioeconomic range of families. There's definitely some affluent families, and then there's also students who have less than that. And so it's a kind of a beautiful mix of people. We also support the neighboring town of Nahant. The students, that's like a peninsula off the Linway in Massachusetts. And it's such a small area that they only support kids through grade 7. And then students from Nahant come over to Swampscott for grades 8 through 12. And Swampscott, not that diverse with race. And so we are part of the METCO program. So we have a student population that comes to us from Boston every day for grades K through 12. And so I think we have about 35 students at the high school that come every day from Boston. So it adds more life and diversity to our school system.
Said it better than I could have. I'm glad I kicked that one over. But yeah, just obviously, the community a lot better than I do, but I grew up on the North Shore. Swampscott's considered part of North Shore of Boston. And so familiar with it, and have been going to the school to do education around financial aid and scholarships for a long time now. But I always find it, and you hit on, a unique community in the sense that socioeconomically, at least, where you do have the two extremes, right? There's parts of Swampscott that are just very affluent and these amazing houses, palaces on the water, right? And then you have, I'm sure, a meaningful percentage of free and reduced lunch families living in subsidized housing. And it also borders a city called Lynn, and a lot of Lynn, in some ways, it's interesting because it's a world away from parts of Swampscott.
Correct.
Yeah, a couple miles away.
It really is.
It's a cool community in that sense. And then, of course, you have everything in between, which probably makes up most of it.
And then I was talking to Matt in a separate call, but we're having, given the world today, we're having so many students, international students, come to us fleeing the countries that are at war. And so our ELL program is fairly small because we haven't had as much of a need. And now the amount of Ukrainian students that are coming, and in Afghanistan, a student from Afghanistan, it's just amazing that the different countries that the children are coming from. And so our ELL population is growing in such a way that we really need to figure out a better way to support them. And I was picking Matt's brain just about financial aid for students in that regard, about how we can support them, because how they come here it's just so hard to support them, knowing all the trauma that they've been through, and then to have more trauma when you say, and you can't really go to college in America because it's so expensive. So that's where Matt comes in and helping us support the kids as best we can.
And there's no easy answer, right? Like that one student you're talking about, I think is a brilliant young lady, comes from like a horrific way to arrive at where she is, a 17, 18-year-old, whatever she was. But we don't have a lot of great, easy answers for these folks, because if you're not a US citizen, you're not eligible for need-based financial aid from the federal government. And then it depends on the college. That's what makes it really hard and kind of labor intensive, because every college has different policies. And there's not necessarily, we're trying to get better to have easier go-to resources to help you all and these students figure out, okay, what colleges do give financial aid to international kids and or scholarships, right? But we're not there yet, right? So this is forcing us to get better quicker, I hope. But as of now, there's not easy solutions, and everyone is a little bit of a one-off in a unique situation, and trying to work with particular colleges to get buy-in from. So that's the challenge there. And can you unpack the ELL program a little bit for some people that might be hearing that for the first time and what it is?
Sure. So that's our English, it stands for English Language Learner Program. And like Matt was saying, our neighboring town of Lynn has such a diverse population that their program is very robust with so many resources. And then you come literally a mile down the road, not even, and our little town of Swampscott, we have one EL teacher here at the high school who speaks some Spanish, and So she does, basically when a child comes in that English is not their first language, there's a screener that every student has to go through in order for us to assess their language needs, and they either qualify for services or they don't. And if they do qualify, she teaches classes for beginner learners, or if they're higher up, and her job is to help them just with the very basics of getting by with the English language. And then ideally, in a perfect world, they're also enrolled in whatever grade they are, that English class as well. But sometimes she will co-teach certain, like co-teach a biology for the ninth graders that really need that content for MCAS. MCAS is our Massachusetts standardized testing requirement. So it's a whole thing, but with one teacher, she's now bursting at the seams because we've had so many international students come in this year.
And how about, was the young lady we were talking about, I don't know if you can say her first name or not, and don't worry about it if you can't, or make one up. I mean, how's her English?
She happened to be very strong.
Okay. And was she from Ukraine?
I think she's from Ukraine, and the Ukrainian students that we've encountered, a lot of them have had English study.
Okay.
So some of them didn't, like some of our Ukrainian students, I don't think that young woman, and I had another young man, they didn't even qualify for services, which is
okay, no kidding. Okay,
qualify for the ELL population. They didn't need that substantially separate class.
And did they come over with family or parents, or they?
Yes, yeah,
okay.
They've been coming over with parents. Yep.
Okay.
And then sometimes I think here those two people have either family friends or actual family that they've bunking with.
Okay. And I wonder if there are, because I know there's a decent sized Jewish population in Swampscott and Marblehead, and I wonder if that was a helpful out for them. I don't know if that came in to play at all, but I know there's a fair amount of Ukrainian Jews, so I wonder if that was a community they could tap into. I was just curious because I had that thought with the influx into specifically Marblehead. I wonder if that was a tie there. Okay, let's back it up a little bit. Where did you grow up?
Salem, Massachusetts.
Nice. There you go. North Shore girl too. And then where'd you go to school?
I did my undergrad at Providence College and my graduate at Salem State.
Okay, cool. And what was the draw to Providence? Any particular reason?
I think I was looking for a small school, and it was in my comfort zone. Looking back, I don't know if I would choose PC again. I loved it, but it wasn't a very diverse experience. It was a lot of kids that looked like me, were just like me. And so it was very comfortable, but I think if I could do it again, I might pick a different school, but I made lifelong friends and it was great. But
any particular schools come to mind if you could do it again?
Probably would have gone to UMass.
Yeah. I was similar, right? I went to Stonehill and
so similar vibe. Yeah.
For those not from the New England region, like those are two like fairly popular schools around here, good little smaller Jesuit schools, but I described it the same way. Like I had a blast. I loved it. It was more comfortable, but it was a bunch of Irish Catholic kids from Boston, which
same.
We all look at it. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that was the extent of my, experience outside of people that talk like me, etc. And I grew up in Ipswich, Mass, which is even less diverse than Stonehill. Similar thing, right? It was great, but I think if I could go back in time, but that and also I missed out on that bigger school experience and kind of that. At least you had some Division I sports.
Yeah, the sports were still cool. Yeah. So there was a little bit of that.
You had that, yeah. And then so then you went and were you always on this kind of school counselor track? Like when?
Not really.
Did that become a thing? What was that trajectory?
I was always into so I didn't really have a direction at PC. It was like I declared the last possible minute, crying with my mother on the phone. What should I declare? So was like a social sciences major, like a little bit of psych, a little bit of sociology, just as broad as possible. And I loved the arts. I was always a dancer, a musician. So graduating PC, I was like, and I want to help people. So I thought, let me look into the nonprofits. Like immediately I was like, I've always been destined not to make a lot of money.
All right, that was like, as long as I can make below this, I'll consider it. Yeah.
So I applied to all the arts and nonprofits in Boston, and I got it. My first job ever full-time job was at the Boston Symphony Orchestra in the fundraising office. So I worked for the major gifts team of the BSO for 4 or 5 years, and it was cool. They shipped me out to Tanglewood, which is the home of the Boston Symphony in the summer out in the Berkshires. And there were parties and fundraisers, and it was very wonderful. And that's actually how I met my husband. He's from out there.
Next
So
question. That was my next
yeah.
question. We'll put a pin on that and circle back on it. What I was going to ask is, you ever meet James Taylor in your Tanglewood days?
I've never physically met him. My husband has, because he is a teacher by the school year and he was a bartender at Tanglewood by summer.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I've been to many a JT concert. Yeah. It's a huge still at Tanglewood. He comes every 4th of July. So that's big.
Oh yeah.
So then, so then so I realized I'm not growing up to be a fundraiser. This is not for me. And I always thought that I loved the idea of working in a school system. And especially when I met my husband, he was a teacher. And I thought, I really want to get that same schedule. How dare he work and have summers off and I work 9 to 5 if we're going to build a family. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to get a job out of college so then I could get my master's for a discount? So that's ultimately what I did. I worked at Salem State in the alumni office for a bunch of years while I got my master's slowly at night. It took me 5 years to get my master's of school counseling, but I did it at night while I worked at Salem State, which was awesome. My boss at Salem State was a gem. She was so supportive of me, even though Salem State had a master's in higher ed administration for people that want to work at a college. And I specifically was like, I don't want to do that. I actually want to be a school counselor. But she still was super supportive of me and let me, at the end of my Salem State experience, she let me do my internship. I interned at Marblehead High School, like a couple mornings a week. And then I rushed over to Salem State and worked later into the night to do my hours.
I wonder if we ever crossed paths at Marblehead, because I was
maybe that. Yeah, they were really wonderful to me as I was learning to be a counselor.
Good staff.
Yes, and then so after I got my degree, then I ended up at Newton North High School as my first high school, which is an amazing operation down there. I got my foot in the door as a co-op coordinator. Actually, they're a comprehensive high school where they have vocational programs. And they needed somebody to do the internship piece and schmooze with the community members. And that's how I got my foot in the door. And then as the years progressed, they needed a counselor. So I became like 0.5 school counselor, 0.5 co-op coordinator. And then ultimately, before I left there, I was a full-time counselor.
Awesome.
And I knew I was a North Shore girl forever. So I couldn't do that commute anymore. I had to find one closer to home.
You and me both, sister. You and me both. It's tough to leave this place.
It's the best.
It's good to go out and explore, but it's gonna suck you back.
I know, you're gonna come home.
Why fight it? And okay, that's cool. And then was your first full-time school counseling gig Swampscott?
Yeah, so I was leaving Newton North as a full-time counselor, so that was like a couple of years, and then this has been my first other gig.
Okay.
Yep.
Very prestigious high schools for you here in Massachusetts.
Good not bad, right?
Yeah, not bad. Nice resume for probably most of you that are unfamiliar. Newton North is Newton's a community just outside of Boston, and it's very, I don't know, I guess it has some clout around these parts when you live in Newton.
I would say it's one of the strongest districts in the state.
Yeah.
They're just huge too. They have 2 high schools of 2,000 kids each. It's humongous. Yeah.
They're massive. So we'll talk about this offline, but maybe you can give us some introductions after.
Yeah, sure.
The fact to your old colleagues there. But I'd like to go back to your husband because I'm liking this story of meeting out at Tanglewood in the Berkshires. That all sounds very romantic, right? So let's talk specifically. How did you guys meet there? What was the first encounter? His
father was a colleague of mine. His dad was the director of the grounds, like the operations of the actual. So I think one time there was a social event and we were all there. So I met him there. The rest was history. So we were long distance for 2 or 3 years, I think, before he came
across the state, basically.
Yeah. Just Mass Pike every weekend. Yeah.
Not too bad. My wife was in San Diego or girlfriend at the time, San Diego, while I was here. So we did the 3 miles, 3,000 miles long distance for multiple years. So I get it. Okay. And then you eventually convinced them to come to the North Shore.
Yes.
You guys have set up shop and you said you have 2 children now?
Yep. My daughter is 8 and my son is 10.
8 and 10. Nice. All right. Fun. And then we're done, or who knows?
Yeah, we're done. Oh God.
Okay. All right. I guess we're talking. I didn't really plan to ask that question, but I did.
That's fine.
You can decide if that makes the cut or not. Okay. And then So that's great. That's helpful to see your path here. And
Yeah.
for in case this isn't coming through, just so you all know, Rachel's very much adored in her community and by her families and students and administration. And I know this from all the nice things I hear behind your back, Rachel. So you're
Thanks.
clearly doing a great job. But I'll ask you the question I like to ask, but usually all the school counselors, but and then we'll talk maybe about the negative parts, but what do you love about what you do? What are the most rewarding parts of the job?
Yeah, I think, and I should say too, this is my first year. I had my adored colleague, Emily, was the head of the department for years and years, and she has since become the assistant principal at the middle school. So this is my first year as the department chair of the department too. So we're a small team. We're a 650 student school. We have 3 school counselors and we split up by alphabet and we follow the kids each year. So I have a counseling caseload, just like the other 2. And then I also have these extra responsibilities as department chair. So we can talk about that in a little bit. I'm still getting my feet wet. This is my first year doing that. So I'm figuring it all out. But I think my favorite job of being a school counselor is like the different seasons of the job. It's never the same day really. And even if it's similar days in a month, it's going to change because you go through the cycles. And I just love every part about it. I never could be a teacher because I'm just not passionate about a subject enough to be in front of a group of kids, but the individual work with students is really, I think, where I shine. Building relationships, helping kids, communicating with families, because I think you all know, if you're school counselors watching this, that a lot of our job is also being the conduit with the families and being that point person for the parents. But I enjoy the seasons. Like, of course, we're all wrapping up the seniors applying to colleges. Now I'm working on the program of studies with the principal. We're about to roll out course selection for what the younger students want to take next year. So I just love every part about it. It's different throughout the year. You never get bored.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. That makes sense to me. And I guess I didn't know that you were the head guy over there.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Of course, my colleague, Julie Mazzola, she's been here even longer than me, but she said, Rach, you take it.
It's funny because I always think of you and Julie as no deal, but it's good to know. Right. Excited to tell her next time I see her that what's it like to work for you as the boss, right?
Oh God, yeah.
So I'll enjoy that. Team.
I don't think of it that way. I hope she doesn't either.
I have a feeling that's not the case. Yeah. And obviously you chose this path and a lot more of it works for you than doesn't, but what are some of the things you would change that are tip of tongue of whatever, maybe something you just don't like, but what would you change if you could?
Yeah, I think so sometimes maybe people out there can relate. Sometimes the school counseling role, you have to be careful because you get asked or mandated to do things that are not within your normal job responsibilities. And so that's where it's unfortunate when you get pulled in directions that are taking away from what you hope to be doing day to day with kids. So for us, I should say we're very lucky that doesn't often happen, but we are involved with our MCAS administration. Certainly as school counselors, we are responsible for tracking the students' scores because in Massachusetts, you need to have a certain score in an English, a math, and a science exam in order to earn a diploma. And so we have to track that. But then each year, of course, our school offers the administration to grades 9 and 10. And then we also do retakes for the kids that either move into the district from a private school, come from another country, or have failed the exam. And so our days are wiped when those exams happen. We're either proctoring, we're supporting the extra time room, we're calling home when they don't show up to school. We all have to pitch in, and the teachers are sometimes the proctors. So it's just a drag. Sometimes the state mandates that come down, there's different screeners. A mandated screening in the state of Massachusetts right now is a substance use screening for 9th graders. So we wiped our day clean. We're meeting with the kids, asking the standard set of questions about substance use. Stuff like that. And then like our AP exams, I think Matt can relate, like College Board is such a monopoly sometimes, and we tailor our school curriculum to this private organization.
Preach.
And so we're proctoring the AP exams in the month of May. It's not doing my day job. I'm sitting here working for College Board for free. It doesn't make sense when you take a step back and look at it, but that's the way of the world right now until we can kick out College Boards.
I love it.
You can say that. Maybe College Board will we see this and give me a call.
I'm taking this quote down.
Right?
Working for College Board for free. Yeah, you and
that's
many
what I feel like, right?
I hear it. I hear it. Paying
Like,
money,
in order to be equitable, we offered the PSAT in school this year because we wanted to be equitable. Some of our students can't afford it and or can't make it here on a Saturday if they live in Boston. So literally our students, the district supported that we needed to take a day of school to do it. And I think that's important until standardized testing is not a part of college admissions, but
100%. And I always found it ironic that you have to pay College Board to apply for financial aid. That irony was never lost.
right. Oh God, I know.
The CSS profile. Okay, I'm trying to think if I got anything else here. Oh, I always ask about the summer. So you totally off in the summer? Side hustles, or for the most part off?
No side hustles, although we always joke that we should, but start a college thing. But I think with this, so it's cool. Also respect my district that with this department chair position, it's written in that the head of the guidance department or school counseling, we like to say these days, can work an extra up to 10 days paid. So I am going to come in just because there's new students are registering all summer. The schedule is perhaps needing a lot of work, kids. So there's definitely, and I have to develop the school profile that gets sent to colleges and things. And Matt, it's like work can be done when it's quiet. And that's part of the challenge that I'm finding with the added responsibilities this year. It's if I'm accessible to kids all day, when am I supposed to do all the other stuff that people are expecting of me? I work a lot at night.
That's never lost on me. That's never lost on me for you guys. I'm like,
yeah, it's like, I want to do it all, but then I'm working at night, which I don't care. Once the kids are in bed, it's like, all right, I can do an hour or two of emails and stuff, but otherwise they just get so backed up.
No, I hear it. Absolutely.
I'm trying to hit the balance of that. I can't be one of those people that doesn't check it until I'm here, because that just would never work. I'd never be able to get back to people.
100%. And then, so I guess last question here, so you guys are both off during the summer. Does it ever get to be too much time off with one another? That was something that we experienced.
Yeah, my husband's a teacher. Not now with the kids. I think when we first got married, I think I think I had worked in a school, but I looked at him sideways, like, how can you just sit home all summer? We're two adults. And so I did that first year. I got a summer job working with kids with in the special education world, like kids with some disabilities. And I ended up like funding us to go to London for a trip. It was like, it seemed silly to me to just be an adult with no kids and be off on the summer because I was in my 20s and it's like, you just used to go. But now with the kids now, like even this time of year, my friends who work all year round, they're stressed about what summer camps am I going to do? Oh my God, that one's closed. And I don't have to stress about that. I can just be home with my kids. And if they want to go to camp, sure. But we're not stressed about that.
Beautiful thing. Hey, lean into it. You work your butt off all year for it.
So. Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was great. I learned about you. Your husband basically knows James Taylor.
That's right.
The main takeaway here. But no, thank you so much for spending some time, especially on a Friday afternoon here. And I'll look forward to chatting whenever we connect next.
Sounds great.
Have an awesome weekend,
Thank
buddy.
you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.